You need to travel across a body of water or an ocean or just go up and down a river. How do you make that interesting? Sun Tzu wrote, "If you wait by the river long enough, the bodies of your enemies will float by." That's one way to make a river sort of interesting. If you're traveling by river, there you can various things float down the river from upstream. So what is floating downriver? There could be everything from bodies to just discarded things. That's where you get the term flotsam and jetsam. And I actually looked up the definitions. Flotsam, the part of a wreckage of a ship and its cargo found floating in the water. And jetsam is unwanted material or goods that have been thrown overboard from a ship and washed ashore. So those things are common, and that's what I'm going to be talking about, is things that you would actually find probably in the water. So just like you could find a doll floating down the river, you could find a variety of different things. Anything made of wood could float down the river. You don't need to resort to, like I listened to one discussion where somebody says, oh, I create tasks for the persons to do on board where one has to do the navigation. But again, it's getting back to you roll the dice and see if there's an encounter. I'm sorry, but that just is boring. Whereas if you take a look at what's going on, everything from just fish. You're sitting out there. Now, I'm not a fisherman. I have been fishing, I think, twice in my life and found it immensely boring. I know people enjoy that. And I'm not putting that down, but it gives you some ideas of what could be happening as you're traveling down, up or down a river. Or even out on the ocean. If you're traveling and you're fishing for food to give a variety or to more food as you're going during your journey, what kind of fish do you find? Is there anything unusual in the fish when you find them? There are arguments about people finding coins inside fish, and that they've eaten. You could find a locket in a larger fish that you've captured, or if there's a large, you do a pike or something large, and you open it up and you find a locket in there, and inside the locket is a map. I mean, these are options that you can find all along the way in water, because they're things that come to you. Sure, there's encounters you could have. You could have, everything from mermen and the other various water things that live on the edge of the water or in the water. And you could always have them see a mermaid if you want to do those type of encounters. But there's other things to find just going along. And if you're on a larger ship, there are other things that can happen. One of the things that I was doing in the world of Tiglath, the party was heading to a city, and the city of Anase, and the party is on a larger boat. And one of the other passengers sees something at night. She sees a comet up in the sky. Now, when you're out on the sea, there's the phrase, give me a star to guide by, or whatever. I can't remember the actual quote. But the idea is that if you're at a technological level where they use the stars to navigate with, then they know the sky, and something appearing in the sky will get their attention. It's much more obvious because you're away at night, you're away from all other light sources. So the sky can be a very interesting thing to put things in. You can have comets, you can have more meteor showers, you can have a star that they hadn't noticed before that maybe blinks, or something like that. Or, you know, you can get into planets. If you want to get into that type of sign and symbols for your adventures. But it allows you to introduce other features into making the travel across water much more interesting. Does something unusual float by? The other thing, if you're dealing closer to shore, well, you can actually do it if you're not, but you have to think about your world a bit if you do this. You're traveling along, if you're like on a river or near the shore, you may see a shipwreck on the beach. So do you investigate or you just drift on by? But there may be a shipwreck, or more interesting things are a ship that appears to be undamaged but is way up on the shore, much higher up than you normally expected, which was caused by some flooding. I'm sure if you've seen some of the pictures from the typhoon, where they've had typhoons and or what a tsunami, where it's lifted the boats up and put them not where you would expect, way far inland comparatively. So as you're traveling, you could come across where a tsunami or something like that has pushed boats and ships and large things way up on the shore. Now that means that you see it from the shore, but you have to wonder, could that be happening? Could that happen again? Yes, you could do something really nasty with a tsunami, and what happens to your ship, and do they survive, and all of that. But that's a different approach. How deadly do you want to make the weather? Because people can't really do much about the weather. But it allows you to introduce things like that, or ruins, or sunken ports. I don't know if you've seen, there was Cleopatra's, she had one of her palaces is underwater, that was built in Egypt, and it's underwater because the the land has changed, and it's now completely underwater, and they're doing undersea archaeology. So as you're driving, as you're not driving, but as you're drifting by, floating by, you may catch glimpses of something under the water. And of course, you could always have something like Cthulhu, where it's that opens up interesting possibilities of how dark do you want your adventures to be, because you could put something like that, something like finding some of those strange structures that are underwater or just barely peeking up above the water. And if you think about the tides, that if they come in at low tide, they see various things. If they come in at high tide, they don't, because it's higher than that. And so there's dangers possibly in the water from, jagged structures that are there that can rip the hull of a ship. Or there are always shipwrecks. As you, not only in the shore, but as you look down, you can see the sunken ships. And it makes the party maybe wonder, do I want to go down and try and explore? If they've got rings of water breathing or potions of water breathing or something, they may want to explore those. But it allows you to add spice and adventure to your routine travel. Just, it's going to be a boring journey. I have to roll to see if, you've traveled X number of miles by ship each day, and is there anything there? I love to see these river cruises. I don't know if you're on the television where they advertise the river cruises. I didn't take a river cruise, but years ago I went with somebody who really knew the castles in Germany, and we went up. Was it the Rhine or the Main? I think I missed the Main trip, but we went up the Rhine, and we saw all the castles that are along there, and the person I was with knew the history of all the castles, and that was a lot of fun. But you see the castles, because along a river is a logical place to start building cities and fortifications and various things like that. So you see those off in the distance, and what do? You know, some of those are destroyed, some of those aren't. So, some of those add the interest that's off the beaten path, and that you can perhaps distract the party from their ultimate goal, which I find the best way to have interesting adventures is to distract the party, so that, you know, they're trying to go someplace, but along the way they find something that may be more interesting and change their priorities of what they're trying to do, because this looks more interesting and more profitable or whatever. And I like that type of adventure where you don't know as a dungeon master what the party's going to do, but you're going to offer them a wide variety and let the party make the decision of what they're going to do. Don't railroad them, don't force them. And if you think about it, if you're saying that, oh, we've got to go from point A to point B, and it's going to take X number of days, and we have to roll, you know, this many times to see if there's an adventure, you've basically locked the party into going that way. That they can't, nothing is going to distract them from their end goal. Now, on a sea voyage, that was one of the challenges when I did In the World of Tiglath. One of the passengers freaked out and wanted the ship to get to port much faster. She was arguing they needed to lighten the ship and put on more sails and just to try and get there. And the party was, she was freaking out, and she locked her down in her cabin, and she was so distraught she ended up committing suicide, which caused an entire twist in the party. What do? You've got someone who's committed suicide because they're so worried that terrible things are happening and we have to get there. Do we push the ship captain now to get us there sooner because of all of this? So you can do all these types of twists in an adventure. And the advantage with an adventure on water is the party is basically limited to the conveyance. That means that if they're on a small boat, they can't get off the boat as easily. They can jump off and maybe swim, but you've still got that. If you're doing an ocean voyage, the party doesn't have much option. They're sort of stuck on that one. And as they're going across, I don't know if I'm sure many of you have seen the movie Castaway. So imagine you're on a ship and you're going along and you see this handmade raft with someone just barely alive on this raft. So this allows you to rescue someone, to introduce you to whole other possible adventures and NPCs, and it solves the problem, what's called the old dark house. If any of you know the meme, it's about adventures. Why don't you just leave? Well, it solves the problem, because if you're on a ship, you really can't leave, but you can have all the things going on in there. People could be dying. You could have a whole bunch of interesting adventures that make the adventures on water fascinating to your party, so that they may look forward to it and it's not this boring just rolling daily. Thank you. I look forward to learning what you think about this video. Let me know in the comments below. If there's something you'd like me to cover, please add that in a comment. If you like the video, press the thumbs up button. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down. I appreciate both. If you're new here and want to subscribe, you can click on my icon on the left, or if you're interested, there is more content on the right. Thank you.